Pick up a nail and look at it. There is a flat head at the top, a straight shaft running down the middle, and a sharp point at the bottom. 3 distinct shapes, each doing a different job. The head gives the hammer something to strike. The shaft penetrates the material. The point gets it started. It looks like something assembled, as if the head was pressed onto the shaft and the point was machined separately and attached. None of that is true. The nail you are holding is one continuous piece of steel wire. The head, the shaft, and the point are all the same metal, shaped 3 different ways by the same machine in less than a second. There was no joining, welding, or separate parts. The wire went in, the nail came out. Let's get into it right here on Small Things. What arrives at the machine? The raw material entering the nail-making machine is steel wire wound into a heavy coil, sitting on a rotating stand and unwinding continuously as the machine works. The coil is matched to the nail being made. Different nail sizes require different wire diameters, so the correct coil is selected before production begins. But the wire arrives with a problem. Wound tightly for storage and transport, it has a permanent curve built into it from sitting in that coil shape. Left alone, it would follow the arc of the coil rather than running straight, and a nail-making machine needs straight wire. The curve has to go before anything else can happen. How wire gets to nail diameter. The wire in that coil did not arrive at this diameter from the steel mill directly. It was drawn down progressively through a series of carbide dies, each one slightly smaller than the last. The process begins with hot-rolled steel rod, a relatively thick bar that comes from a rolling mill where a steel billet was pushed through a series of rollers at high temperature until it reached rod diameter. That rod is then cold drawn, pulled through a die that is smaller than the rod, forcing the metal to compress and elongate as it passes through. The rod becomes thinner and longer, and the drawing process also makes it harder and stronger through a property called work hardening. The metal's grain structure tightens as it deforms, increasing its tensile strength with each pass. The wire is drawn through multiple dies in sequence, each one reducing the diameter slightly until it reaches the target diameter for the nail being produced. The dies used for this process are made from tungsten carbide, one of the hardest materials available for industrial tooling. Steel rod pulled through a carbide die at production speed would quickly destroy a softer die material. Carbide wears slowly enough that a single die can draw tens of tons of wire before needing replacement. The same drawing process that shapes the wire also gives it the mechanical properties that make it useful as a nail. Each pass through a die deforms the metal's grain structure slightly, aligning and tightening the grains in the direction of drawing. A nail shaft needs to resist sideways bending when struck by a hammer. If the shaft buckled instead of driving straight, the nail would be useless. The work hardening produced by wire drawing is what prevents this. A soft annealed wire of the same diameter would bend far more easily under the same blow. After reaching target diameter, the wire is coiled onto reels for transport. Coils are far more compact than straight lengths. A single coil sitting on a factory floor might contain wire that, unrolled, would run for several kilometers. But coiling introduces the permanent curve that the machine then has to correct. The wire arrives at the nail machine in a form optimized for logistics and then has to be converted back into something straight before any nail can be made from it. 5 actions, 1 second. When the wire leaves the coil and enters the machine, 5 mechanical actions happen in rapid sequence, each solving a specific problem the previous step left unresolved. First, the wire passes through staggered rollers in opposing rows, each one bending it slightly in the opposite direction from the previous, progressively working out the curve until the wire runs straight. Next, a wire feeder grips the straightened wire and pushes it forward by a precisely controlled distance. That distance determines the finished nail's length, and the machine repeats this measurement hundreds of times per minute with no variation. A high-speed blade severs the wire at the measured point, producing a blank, a short cylinder of steel with two flat ends, exactly the length of the finished nail's shaft, with no head and no point. At this stage, it looks like a piece of wire that has been cut, nothing more. The blank is then gripped by a die that holds the lower portion firmly in place. A punch strikes the upper end with significant force, compressing it against the resistance of the die below. The metal at the struck end cannot move vertically because the die holds it, so it spreads outward, and in a single blow, the flat head forms from the same material as the shaft, with nothing added, nothing welded, nothing attached. The volume of metal in the head is exactly the volume of shaft that compressed away under the blow. Two angled blades close on the opposite end of the blank and bevel it to a point. From blank to complete nail with head and point takes a fraction of a second, and the machine cycles this sequence continuously, producing several hundred nails per minute from a single wire feed. The nail that comes off the machine is complete in shape but not quite finished. Burrs from the cutting and forging remain at the edges, and a film of lubricant from the drawing process coats the surface. Before packaging, nails load into a rotating drum with sawdust or abrasive particles and tumble until the surface is clean and the edges are smooth. The head is not attached. The assumption that the head is pressed or crimped onto the shaft comes from a reasonable place. A flat disc sitting on a cylindrical shaft looks like something that was added. In most manufactured objects of that general shape, it would be. In a nail, the head and the shaft are the same piece of metal, continuous with each other. If you could magnify a cross-section through the junction between the head and the shaft, there would be no seam, no bond line, no evidence of joining. The metal flows from shaft to head without interruption because no joining ever happened. What the punch does is called cold forging, deforming metal at room temperature by applying pressure until it takes a new shape, without melting it, without removing material, simply rearranging it. The volume of the head equals the volume of shaft that was compressed away. The blank before forging and the nail after forging contain exactly the same amount of steel. The material has simply moved from a cylindrical shape into a disc shape under pressure. This matters because it means the head is mechanically part of the nail, not a component attached to it. There is no joint that can fail, no weld that can crack, no crimp that can loosen. The head and shaft are one continuous piece of grain-aligned steel, and the connection between them is as strong as any other point in the nail's structure. Where nails actually end up. A carpenter framing a wall with a nail gun barely registers each individual nail. The gun drives them faster than the eye tracks, and by the time the frame is sheathed, they are invisible inside the structure, doing their job without being thought about again. The precision that went into making them uniform enough to feed reliably through the gun, one after another, without jamming, is invisible too. A Finnish carpenter takes the opposite approach. Each nail placed carefully, driven until the head sits just below the surface. The small dent filled and sanded smooth. The nail is designed to vanish, and doing that cleanly depends on every head being the same depth and diameter so the filler behaves predictably. Someone renovating an old house and pulling nails from reclaimed timber encounters the same object from the other direction. Each nail that went in at driving speed comes out slowly and with effort, sometimes taking a splinter of wood with it. The accumulated labor of removing a few hundred by hand gives you a different sense of what went into putting them there in the first place. A builder choosing between plain steel and galvanized nails for an outdoor deck is making a decision whose difference the nail's appearance barely signals. Plain steel in a wet environment will rust visibly within a year. Galvanized nails look nearly the same from the outside and will hold their condition for decades under the same conditions because of a coating process that takes a few seconds and changes the nail's useful life entirely. Cheap is not simple. The individual nail costs a fraction of a cent, and that price makes it feel like the simplest thing in a hardware store. The cheapness is real, but it is not the result of a simple process. It is the result of a machine that has compressed a precise sequence of mechanical actions into a fraction of a second and can repeat that sequence thousands of times per hour without losing tolerance. The nail is cheap because the machine is fast and exact, not because what the machine does is easy. One wire goes in, nails come out. The gap between those two things is smaller than most people imagine and more precise than almost anything else that costs this little. If this changed the way you look at the next nail you pick up, let us know in the comments what you want us to explore next. We might make it our next episode. Thanks for watching. History often hides in the smallest details.